I want winners. I want people that want to win.
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
You got to put your money where your mouth is, Pete.
It's not gambling advice. Monday, April 4th. Welcome to Not Gambling Advice. Colby, today's going to be a phenomenal episode because we are projecting over/under win totals for our 5 favorite teams. And just a reminder, if you are watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, toss us a like, let us know in the comments which of our picks you agree or disagree with, and of course, give us your picks. And we just like to thank everyone listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you could leave a 5-star review, let us know what you're liking currently about the podcast, because we are only 21 episodes in. Colby, on the Just Baseball show, we went 19-11 with our picks last year. We went through every single team, but it was more an opportunity to talk about every single team. But we decided to consolidate that a little bit and pick our 5 favorites that we will actually gamble on. It's not gambling advice, of course, but we will be gambling on these 5 teams especially. So Colby, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I do think we have some news to cover, which does kind of relate. So I kind of want to get into, we're going to each pick 5 teams that we really, really believe in that will either go over or under. But there were a couple that I was, right on the fence. I was like, I think this team will go under. I think this team might go over. But there was just kind of one thing that held me back from picking it because I just wasn't confident enough. The first thing I want to cover is we got the news last night that Jacob deGrom is injured again. And as we've been talking about it for the last month, it's only a matter of time before that was going to happen. And so the Mets win total right now is sitting at 90.5. I really was thinking about taking the under there because I am worried about this Mets rotation without Jacob deGrom, right? Max Scherzer, you have him, but is this Mets rotation good enough? Chris Bassett's the number 2. Is Taijuan Walker going to be able to give you enough good innings? I really don't know, but I think this lineup did get better. I think they're kind of right on the fence. I think they're going to win 88, 89, and they have the potential to win 91, 92. I don't think they have the potential to win 95, 96, though.
I agree. And I think, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it seems like the Jacob deGrom injury concerns are almost baked into the line here, because you look at this team on paper and they should be closer to the Yankees at a 91.5, possibly even 92.5 when you're strictly looking on paper. So it does seem a little bit that it is baked into the line. And I agree with you. I think they're going to be around that total, anywhere from 88 to 92. It's just a line I don't want to touch because the Mets are so polarizing in themselves. They are one of the most bet on teams. So Vegas definitely can target that line, especially with the Yankees as well. Like they're at 91.5. I like that line. They won 92 games last year, and I do think the roster is overall better. But when you look at the rest of the division, when you consider how much money is currently being poured onto the Yankees, those are 2 New York teams that I just don't really want to touch, even though those lines in themselves aren't too bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other team that I was really on the fence on was the Red Sox. I'm a Red Sox fan myself, and I think 85.5 is too low. But what's really holding me back, again, just like the Mets, is the Red Sox rotation. Without Chris Sale healthy for opening day and just kind of his health up in the air, it's not his arm, it's a stress fracture in his rib. But I still worry that this Red Sox team isn't going to be able to hold up with a rotation to, I think they can win more than 85, but I'm not going to bet on it.
There are 2 teams in the NL West that I'm pretty confused about right now. That's the San Francisco Giants and the San Diego Padres. San Francisco Giants are currently at 85.5. San Diego Padres are currently at 88.5. I think the San Francisco Giants will finish with more wins than the San Diego Padres this year. I really do. I think constructed, they're a better team. Fernando Tatis Jr. is out 3 months. I want to bet under 88.5 on the Padres and over 85.5 on the Giants, but I'm not super confident in it. Those don't make my top 5. But I will go back and reconsider for next week. I want to see if Michael Conforto signs with the Padres. There have been rumors there. There has also been rumors that the Padres might go after Brian Reynolds of the Pirates. So I really want to wait to see the last couple days to see how that turns out. But as currently constructed, if nothing else happens, I want to add over 85.5 for the Giants and under 88.5 for the Padres. I know it's a little thing here and there, but it's just I want to wait, and it could still be one of my best, but it doesn't make my top 5.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I mean, I went on Locked On Padres a couple weeks ago to talk about it with Javi about the 88.5 win total, and I did pick the under there. But yeah, it was not a strong lean. It's tough. I mean, even without Tatis, he could come back halfway through the season and just take over, and they're one of the best teams in the second half. That could easily happen. So, yeah.
And I'm not wearing my leather jacket, but I am wearing my lucky shirt because sometimes it's just better to be lucky than good with some of these. Let's start with our top 5, and we'll go back and forth. I would say let's start with our least likely, but we still are betting on it and we still like it, but to our absolute favorite. So who would you say on your list of 5 is your least favorite, but you still like it because it still made your top 5 out of all 30 MLB teams?
I'm going to start with the Rays. So Rays over 89.5 to me seems way too low. This is a team that won the AL East last season. And I don't really see how they got any worse this season. Wander Franco is going to be up the whole entire season. And I think he's what, 5th in MVP odds right now. He's a guy that will easily churn out 4 to 5 to 6 win seasons on command because his batted ball profile is so consistent. He doesn't strike out. He hits the ball hard. He's going to be a lock for 25 home runs, 300. But what he does on the defensive side of the ball is just as impactful as what he does on offense.
Maybe more.
Seriously, he is going to be competing for a Gold Glove at shortstop. He has an insane arm. He does remind me somewhat of Carlos Correa over there at shortstop.
Really does.
So to me, the Rays are still the second best team, to me in the AL East right now behind the Blue Jays, because just what the Blue Jays have done with that lineup is insanity. But I still think the Rays could win this division. And I think that the Rays are better than the Yankees currently constructed. And they are getting, 2 wins above what the Rays are getting. Do not sleep on the Rays. I feel like we do this every year. We sleep on the Rays. They're kind of like the A's too, where it's the money ball thing. They don't spend a lot, but they're going to overperform. They're going to get the most out of their guys possible. This is a 95 win team.
This is a 95 win team, and they are my second ranked favorite bet over 89.5. So I'll go back to my 5th rank, but I just want to add on to the Rays because we will have some crossover here. The Rays are the play. My second favorite play. The Pacoda systems for Baseball Prospectus have them at 85 wins. The Fangraphs projections have them at 86 wins. I'm telling you right now, the projection systems are down on these Rays when they should not be. They finished 162 last year. That's in the same division as the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays. All of those teams will be great, but the Rays, I still think, will finish at the top of this rotation. Losing Tyler Glasnow certainly doesn't help. But Shane McClanahan is a lefty that throws 100. Shane Baz is currently having elbow surgery to remove some loose bodies, but we talked about it. We shouldn't even call it surgery because that's a scary name. He's going to be back within a couple of weeks. Luis Patino is another arm that I love, and he's going to take a step forward. Another righty throwing in the mid to high 90s. And then they have Corey Kluber, who they're going to piece together, and he's going to dominate through the first 4 innings. They didn't bring back Nelson Cruz, which is a problem, but the overall lineup from 1 to 9 is so deep. It's not super top heavy, but a full year out of Wander Franco, another full year of Randy Arozarena. Austin Meadows still rakes. Like Brandon Lau is one of the premier power hitting second basemen in baseball. Just up and down the lineup, there's no weaknesses. In the rotation, I really don't see any weaknesses. And then they have one of the best bullpens and they have one of the best managers. There's just no weaknesses. And I don't really see how they are 11 wins worse than last year.
And what the Rays can always do is plug holes. They have the deepest farm system in baseball. I mean, you can go read the Fangraphs like 39 deep rankings list. it literally does go 39 deep of good prospects on that list. But one of their best prospects, Josh Lau, is going to come up at some point this season and fill a hole in the outfield or a DH or wherever he can, because he's a premier hitter. To me, this team is just unbeatable. Like there's no holes I can pick in this team at all.
And it was, although they did lose Nelson Cruz, it's good to see that they're starting to spend money. They signed Wander Franco to a big extension. Apparently they were somewhat in on Carlos Correa. They've been in on some of these free agents. So I do think that if they have a whole midseason, they will absolutely be buyers at the trade deadline. Everything that the Rays do, I have confidence in. And you're going to tell me they're winning 11 less games than last year? I don't care what the projection systems say. And sometimes the projection systems can be good for us. They can point to maybe some holes, but typically they're rather conservative. The Pacoda projections are from Baseball Prospectus, and the Fangraphs projections are, of course, from Fangraphs. I am so on the Rays, and they're my second favorite team. So we talked about the Rays. Let's talk about my fifth favorite pick, and that's the Los Angeles Angels at over 83.5 wins. Pacoda currently has them at 88. They're much higher on the Angels, while Fangraphs is much lower. They have them at 82 wins. All right, Angels, it's now or never, right? You have Shohei Ohtani hit 46 bombs and at a 3.18 ERA. Let's talk about the offense, because you have Mike Trout, the best player on planet Earth, coming back. When healthy, and he looks healthy in spring training, it's Mike Trout. What do I have to say about that? Anthony Rendon, when healthy, he's a top 3 third baseman in the sport, or at least close to it. He made the number 6 rankings in our top 10 third baseman, which you can find on justbaseball.com or on the Just Baseball show. He's that good. Jared Walsh, Brendan Marsh, Joe Adell, emerging stars on offense. Now, let's talk about the pitching staff. And that's not even to mention Max Stassi, who is an emerging top 10 catcher. On the mound, you signed Noah Syndergaard. He's pumping 96 and 98 in spring training. If he gives you 85% of what he was on the Mets, it's a very good number 3. Not to mention you have Patrick Sandoval, you have Jose Suarez, who proved to be valuable arms in the rotation.
High floor dudes,
and you have Reed Detmers, who's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. Also another pitcher, high floor. You look at the bullpen, it's always been the problem. You re-signed Raciel Iglesias, great signing. He's a top 5 closer in baseball. You signed Aaron Loup with his 1.3 ERA last year, whatever he had. He was a great reliever for the Mets. Ryan Tepera has been one of the better relievers in baseball. He was last year with the White Sox and the Cubs. Archie Bradley, he's not great, but for a 6th, 7th inning role, I love him down there. You have one of the best managers in Joe Maddon. You have the Astros who lost Carlos Correa and then now will be out with Lance McCullers to start the season. The Mariners look great, but their run differential from last year at least calls for some minor regression. This is my least confident play, considering it's always the Angels here. It always seems to be the Angels here. But if not now, when? The Angels, it has to be the year. It absolutely has to, over 83.5. But when I'm saying that, it's all based on what I think should happen. Because with the Angels, it's always injuries. It's always something. Last year, they had the same thing. But I feel much better about them going into this year. What say you to 83.5?
I like it, Peter. It's not one of my plays, but I really like it. What they added to that bullpen beyond Raisel Iglesias, and even Michael Lorenzen's going to kind of have a swingman role in this rotation. He'll have spot starts. He'll be the long reliever. He's actually probably going to get some at bats, which could be fun to watch. I don't know how valuable that will be, but they added Ryan Tepera. They added Aaron Loup, who were both super, super solid last year. And in 6th, 7th, 8th inning roles, those guys will be huge for them. The X factors really are Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout. Can they stay healthy? Because if they're healthy, both those guys are 6+ win guys. And that catapults them to being an 88, an 89, a 90 win team that could even contend for this division with the Astros losing Carlos Correa. So I think it's an interesting play here, Peter.
Thank you.
My next play. So I actually have 6 plays. I screwed up a little bit, but I have 6 plays. The next one I'm going to get into is Cleveland Guardians over 76.5 wins. So the last time this team won less than 80 games was 2012, which is crazy. This team has never been great, but they've also never been very bad. And I don't see them losing less than 80 games again this season. There's something now. I'm going to get into the numbers in a second, but it's a new team name. It's the Cleveland Guardians now. It just seems like there's this new energy around the team. There's a buzz in Cleveland around. I think like the city of Cleveland is a passionate bunch. They're passionate about all of their teams. And now with this new team name, I think they're going to kind of rally around it. Aside from that, though, Shane Bieber's going to come back. He's going to be healthy. He looks healthy so far this spring. I think he puts up his best season yet, an ERA in the twos. This team's super deep as well. So last year, Andres Jimenez and Ahmed Rosario were two guys they acquired from the Mets in that Lindor trade, right? They are super young. Ahmed Rosario was 25 years old last year. Andres Jimenez, who plays second base, was 22 years old in the big leagues last season. Ahmed Rosario had a 116 WRC plus, hit 309 in the second half last season. I think he has his best offensive season. He's still just 26 years old. Again, Steven Kwan, another rookie, is going to come up and play left field. He's going to provide valuable, at bats to this lineup, deep in this lineup, 7th, 8th, 9th hole. He's a guy that can hit 300 too. Franmil Reyes, a destroyer of baseballs. I didn't even mention Jose Ramirez. He's going to play at an MVP caliber level. And this pitching staff beyond Bieber, while it's not the sexiest, I think it's 5 deep, right? You have Tristan McKenzie, who I've predicted a breakout. Cal Quantrill is going to provide valuable innings. Aaron Savali is going to be not good, not great, but I think he can do a 4 ERA and provide, valuable 4-starter innings. And then my biggest concern is Zach Plesac, because he just did not get the K numbers that he did in 2020. I feel like that was a fluke. I don't know if it was sticky stuff. I don't know what the hell it was, but he doesn't have the whiff numbers right now. But this team does have so many prospects too, that if they are in the hunt in July, I think they make not, big splash, but something where they can go get a good player.
So right now, the Bakota system has them at 78 wins and Fangraphs has them at 77 wins. So both of the projection systems, while conservative, both have the over technically with the Guardians. It's very close, 78 to 76 and a half, 75 and a half. It's very close. It's very close. But I agree with you. I would go over. It's not one of my most confident plays just because I think the Tigers with Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson, will they take a step up? The Twins have gotten better, certainly. And then the White Sox. So where do the Guardians fit in this division, I think is the question. What do you say? Do you think they finish second, third, fourth? And do you think if they finish fourth, can they still exceed this win projection?
So yeah, I'll get to it later because another one of my plays is the Tigers, just to spoil it. And I'm going over on the Tigers as well. I think this is one of those divisions like the AL East last year where 4 teams won 90 plus. I think 4 teams can win 80 plus in this division. I don't think the White Sox are going to run away with it and win 100 games. I think they're going to win the division for sure. But I don't think it's one where they're going to run away with it. I think there are 4 competitive teams that aren't just going to beat up on each other. They're going to each kind of split series. And before you know it, each of them are winning 82. The White Sox win 88 to 90. And there you go.
People like to bag on the Central divisions a lot, and for good reason. I mean, you look at the NL Central. The NL Central is clearly the worst division in baseball, and the AL Central kind of gets wrapped into that because you have 3 teams in the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Twins who are not elite by any stretch, but they're somewhat getting underrated now because of the whole Central division dilemma. I agree with you. I would go over on the Guardians. You might have convinced me to bet it. It still is not going to make my top 5, but I definitely not opposed and have no reason to believe that they will go under that win total. My next pick, and it's my 4th most confident play, and maybe it would be the 5th. It's honestly very close to the Angels. I don't love it, but I do like it a lot. The Colorado Rockies over 67.5 wins. The Rockies, I know. Are you serious? Yes, I think I am serious. So just bear with me here for a second. The Rockies finished with a 74 and 87 record in 2021. They've only finished below 67 wins 3 times in the 21st century. They really find a way to win at home. They went 48 and 33 last year at Coors. This is a team that doesn't play to their talent level at home. They beat up on the Dodgers at home. They beat up on the 107-win Giants at home. So the problem is that they lost Trevor Story and they lost John Gray. But winning 74 games with 100 WRC plus from Trevor Story is interesting because it was his worst season and they still found a way to win 74 games. When you look at the roster last year, it was not good. Losing John Gray sucks. Not going to put that to bed. but re-signing Antonio Sensatella, who is a proven at least commodity in Colorado, that he knows how to pitch there. His pitch profile, his pitch data actually kind of matches up to Coors Field as well. They added Chris Bryant, who, say what you want about Chris Bryant, but his batted ball profile mixes in perfectly with Colorado. So he's going to give you better offensive production than Trevor Story did last year. And who they have to fill in for Trevor Story is the next Colorado shortstop. Will he be as good as Trevor Story or Troy Tulowitzki? Maybe not, but Brendan Rodgers is one of their top prospects, has been that way for a long time. I think he's going to put up at least a 100 WRC plus.
I think he goes higher than that.
I think he goes higher than that too. I'm not saying the Rockies will win 80 games. I'm not saying there's 6 wins above 74, but I can't comprehend how there's 7 wins less than last year, especially with a guy like Connor Joe taking a step forward. They have players. We make fun of their logic all the time, but they're not a 68 win team, especially when you consider the Giants are going to take a step back with Buster Posey. The Padres are without Fernando Tatis Jr. Are they going to be up to the same exact level that they were, even as a 77 win team that they were last year? They probably will be. It's almost guaranteed that they will be. But I don't see how the Rockies fall from grace, considering the Diamondbacks haven't taken a big step forward either. 68.5 is way too low for me.
I mean, Peter, you talked about it before.
67.5.
With the Padres and the Giants, they're not as, I don't think the Padres and Giants are as strong as they were last year. I don't think the Diamondbacks are as strong as they were last year. So this team, I don't see them winning less than 70 games. I think you're absolutely right. I like the Randall Grichuk acquisition. I think he'll play a fine center field, but he's going to mash in Colorado. But here's the thing about Colorado. I don't even know if the players that you put on the field matter. I don't know if the players that you put on the mound matter, because I think even if you put Corbin Burns on the mound, what is the difference between Corbin Burns on the mound in Colorado and the difference between freaking Austin Gomber on the mound in Colorado? The thing is a space station. I mean, the pitches don't move and the balls fly out of there. The outfield is as big as the Midwest. Seriously. And so I don't know if it really matters. And they play so well at home. They don't play well on the road. It's the MO. They find a way to win 70 games. It's just one of those things.
And right now it's at 67.5. Bakota has them at 67. Fangraphs has them at 66. It's easy to look at this roster and look at a 65 to 70 win team. I understand, but this is not a normal team. And the projection systems, I think, are too low. They're already conservative and they're around the total of 67.5. I would genuinely be shocked if this team lost more than 70 games.
I would be shocked too, Peter. I would be shocked too. So that brings me to my next pick. And it's one that is near and dear to Just Baseball, because it's one that we end up talking about a lot in the chat, because our co-founder, Aram Layton, is a Marlins fan. And I want to bring up the Marlins because there is no way in hell this team wins more than 76.5 games. This team was god awful last year. They won 67 games. And remember, Peter, this team won 67 games with Sandy Alcantara, with Trevor Rogers, with Pablo Lopez, with, Zach Thompson putting up valuable innings. They each had like ERAs in the 3s, and yet this team could not score runs. Tell me how this team really did get better from a lineup perspective. I mean, Jorge Soler is fine, but it was a small sample when he went off in Atlanta last year. And even then he wasn't insane, right? I see him as a 105, 110 WRC plus guy in Miami. I like Avisel Garcia. Don't get me wrong. I actually really like Avisel Garcia. He is better than I think a lot of people get, but really what's his ceiling? 115 WRC plus, 110. Again, nothing sexy. They lost Starling Marte. And I just don't see how this team got any better from when they just won 67 wins last year. How are they going to win 10 more games this year? I just don't understand it. The other thing that goes into this, like the Rockies, is the Marlins are an incompetent franchise, and they always have been. They're not managed well. They make poor decisions. I mean, all over Twitter, people have been talking about Brian Anderson being tested in center field. This team doesn't have a center fielder, man. They don't have a center fielder. How are you going to field a team that has an amazing rotation if you have a terrible defense, a well below average offense? And even if you have 3 Cy Young winners on this rotation, I just don't see how this team wins more than 76.5 games. 76.5
is a decent number. The Guardians are around 76.5. Like, it's clear the Guardians are a better team than the Miami Marlins. And also, you have an improved NL East. The Phillies look better, much better than they did last year. The Mets, of course, look better than they were last year. And the Braves did not take a step back. The only thing I would say is the Braves took a step forward. So you have an even better NL East. You have a Marlins team that didn't add that much. They are a better offense than last year. I would say, as currently constructed, they are a better team than they were last year. But not
10
9
wins
wins. Yeah, 9 or 10 wins better. I would say they're 4 or 5 wins better. I think the Marlins finish with around 71 to 72 games. I think it approaches that number, but it does not go over that number. And I wouldn't be shocked if they won 75 games, but I would be, I'm starting to get shocked if they're anywhere close to 80. So I think you're getting a percentile projection of the Marlins at like the 90th percentile of what they could be in that 76 games. I'm not betting on that over. Are you kidding me? No. And this is also not a team that's going to go chasing at the trade deadline. Maybe they will. Maybe they shock us all. But I don't see that happening. They just got rid of Derek Jeter. I'm interested to see how the front office changes after that. I don't want to bet on the over. I'm hesitant to bet on the under just because their starting pitching is so strong, and that they now have Max Meyer, who's been great in spring training. Jesus Luzardo has been looking great too. There are positives, but I don't want to bet on the over. I certainly do not.
Yeah, just one more thing before you move on to your next pick. The Marlins rotation last year was so incredibly strong. It's not like Alcantara really has that much room to get that much better. It's not like Trevor Rogers has that much room to outperform the 2.78 ERA or whatever he had last year, or somewhere around that. And so it's like, yes, the rotation is so solid, but how is the rotation going to be any better than last year? And is the offense going to raise this team's value by 10 wins? But yeah, it's just crazy.
So you said you had 6 picks. I only have 2 left because we shared the Rays pick. So give me your next pick.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to another just god-awful team that people are overvaluing. I don't even know if this is overvaluing. They're already kind of low, but it's the A's at under 70.5. This team is bad. Like, it is capital B bad. The A's lost 68 games in 2015. They lost 69 games in 2016. This team is worse than that. I mean, it is freaking bad. And you can say, okay, they have Frankie Montas, they have Sean Manaea still in that rotation, who are, pretty good pitchers. Frankie Montas could make a case for being a top 25, a top 30 starter in the league, but he's going to be gone by the trade deadline, or probably before. This team has no reason to hold on to him at all. And Sean Manaea is probably going to be packaged in that deal too. So beyond that, I mean, like, this offense, Peter, has like 2 guys that are projected above 100 WRC plus. Christian Pache has not shown that he can hit at a major league level yet. Seth Brown is a platoon bat in left field. Steven Piscotty's below average. Ramon Laureano is another guy that is going to be shipped off before July. There's no reason for them. This team, we talk about analytics and we talk about the numbers all the time, but this team has 0 reason to fight to play winning baseball at all. This team will be fighting for a lottery pick in the draft next year. They're going to be fighting for the number 1 pick. I mean, Elvis Andrus is their starting shortstop. Kevin Smith, who's never taken, this team has a bunch of people that have never taken MLB at bats starting in their lineup. Sean Murphy's their best player. It's a disaster. I could see this team winning 60 games.
I have nothing to add. The A's have torn it down and will continue to tear it down. My only hesitancy, I saw that number 2 and I was like, okay, I'm going with the under. But then I thought to myself, the A's are weird. They just might figure out a way to somehow be close to that number. And I hate it. And there's no even real reason why. They just sometimes figure out how to win games. They really do. I'm not betting the over. No shot. But that's the only reason why I stay away from the under. It's more of a me thing. Like, it's not even based on the numbers. It's just a gut feeling that I don't want to bet on an A's under when they've always notoriously been a team that can figure out how to win games with almost nobody on their roster. And I'm not even saying that you're wrong for picking that, because I saw it too and I was like, yeah, under. No doubt. But the only reason I didn't add it to my top 5 is because they're just a weird team in general.
So you're probably going to get into a team that's projected for like 8 lower wins than them, and from what I hear, you're going to go over. And I could see that team winning more games than the A's, like pretty easily. This
Are you
team
talking about the Rangers?
I'm talking about the Pirates. I could see the Pirates potentially. Did you scrap that?
I scrapped the Pirates because I saw on Twitter, it was like, 62.5. And I'm like, okay, cool. That looks great. I went and looked at the actual odds, on BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel. I was trying to find a good line. 66.5 is really the lowest I can find. And so when I considered 66.5, I was like, all right, well, first of all, where are they finding 62.5? Second, like 66.5, they might win 67 games. I'm just not that confident in the Pirates. I saw 62.5. I was like, oh, this is a 65 win team. And then they're 66.5. So I was like,
Fair enough, Peter. Fair enough. I liked the over there too. And then I looked into more and I'm just like, this pitching staff is too bad for my liking.
Like you're going to be on the edge of your seat watching Pirates games. Like all year. It's just Rockies are different because they can actually be fun. Like Pirates, they're a little bit ways away. I don't want to bet on over 66.5. But what I will be betting on, and my second favorite pick of the bunch, that's the Milwaukee Brewers over 88.5 wins. The Pacoda projection systems sit at 93 wins. Fangraphs has them at 90 wins. I think they're going to win 93 wins or above. But let's get one thing out of the way early. The Brewers did not have a good offseason. Just strictly, they did not. They lost Avisail Garcia. They lost Eduardo Escobar, who were two of their best offensive weapons. They traded away Jackie Bradley Jr., adding Hunter Renfroe. I like that trade overall for them. But Hunter Renfroe, again, is probably going to replace what Avisail Garcia was giving you in the lineup. And maybe that's the peak. I don't think he's going to be crazy. But then really, and you also lost Daniel Vogel back as well, who was a good bench bat who added some much needed pop. Okay, the offense is not going to score much, but look at the starting pitching.
Vogelback's on the Pirates. Tellez.
Yeah, I said they lost Vogelback.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they lost Vogelback too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They may not hit much, but the pitching is simply unmatched. I think they have the best pitching rotation in the entire sport. Better than the Mets, better than everybody. Corbin Burns. You could make the argument right now with DeGrom's shoulder issues. How much is he going to give you into his mid to late 30s that he is the best pitcher in baseball? Jacob deGrom still is, but we wouldn't be surprised if Corbin Burns wins the Cy Young again, and he won it again, and he won it last year. Brandon Woodruff is a top 8 pitcher in the game. He's elite. That's probably the best pairing of pitchers in the sport, maybe outside of deGrom and Scherzer. But here's where they're the best trio. Freddie Peralta is a top 15 pitcher. They also have Adrian Hauser, who's always been solid. Eric Lauer was great last year. And Aaron Ashby is an up-and-coming, really good pitcher. Reminds me of Shane McClanahan on the Rays. The bullpen has the best reliever in the sport in Josh Hader, another top 5 reliever in Devin Williams, who might have the best changeup of all time. Trevor Hoffman and Pedro Martinez certainly would like to have a word, but the airbender is freaking unbelievable. This team won 95 games last year, and the NL Central is not better than it was last year. It is worse. The Cardinals are dealing with injuries in their starting rotation, their biggest weakness. Adam Wainwright is 40. Jack Flaherty is dealing with a shoulder thing. The rest of their rotation, they have Steven Matz, who has not been able to prove to stay healthy. Miles Michaelis is past his prime, and Dakota Hudson doesn't have a lot of major league innings. Their offense, the Cardinals' offense, they didn't add a starting shortstop. I mean, Paul DeJong and Edmundo Sosa will fill in a void, and they'll be fine, but they won't be Trevor Story or Carlos Correa. The Cubs are better-ish, but they're not going to be way better. And the Reds tore it down, and the Pirates are still the Pirates. I don't understand how this Brewers team wins 6 games less while being just as good, in my opinion. I mean, they're not that worse, and their division as a whole is worse. You tell me how they go below 88.5 wins.
I can't tell you how they do it because last year, Christian Yelich was a bag of dirt and
didn't even mention him. Didn't even mention him. Like, if he gives you anything better, which he should, this is a better offensive team than 2.
Exactly.
This is me assuming they get the exact same Christian Yelich, and I still don't understand 88.5.
I think this team is crazy deep too. This is a team that has a ton of depth. in the outfield. They have, Tyrone Taylor is a great fourth outfielder. And Peter, what do you think Andrew McCutchen's impact in that locker room has got to be? I mean, it's crazy what bringing a guy like that it does to the morale of your team. Going through a cold streak in the middle of this season at some point. Andrew McCutchen's been through that, countless times in his career. He knows how to just create a vibe in a locker room like no other. I really like Rowdy Tellez. I think he's going to have a well above average season. He has never really had, a full season of plate appearances. And I think with 550 plate appearances, he can show what he really can do. I don't know if I'm buying back into the Kessenheier hype yet. And everyone kind of was.
But he's not going to be any worse, right?
But I don't exactly. And
that's the thing.
A full season of Willy Adames too. He's a great defender at shortstop and a great bat.
He was great with the Brewers last year, really came into his own. I was trying to be as pessimistic as possible with the offense as a way to not just be like, oh yeah, this team's going to win 100, 110 games. Like they're not. No. I was trying to be as pessimistic as possible with the offense, and it's still not that bad. And then they have the best I'm considering like the best rotation and bullpen combo. It's probably the best in baseball. They have a great manager, not a good manager. Craig Counsell is a great manager. Where are the holes?
I really don't see any holes. I love this pick. I love this pick because this team, like I said, is so deep. I love picking deep teams because like the Yankees for so many years, right, Peter? You know it better than anybody. They would get 3 injuries and then they would just go on a skid. I don't see that happening.
Odor was hitting third.
Exactly. Like that's not going to happen on this team. They can move guys around. There's a lot of multi-positional guys on this team, which is also huge. I mean, Colton Wong can move around the diamond. Luis Urias can move around the diamond. It's a fun team. And 3 out of 5 days, you get Woodruff, Burns, Peralta, and then Hauser and Lauer are high floor guys. I really think Aaron Ashby is going to be that Christian Javier, like swingman role guy. He's going to have spot starts, or he's going to stick in the bullpen and do 2-inning Tanner Houck, just craziness. It's a great team.
And he's not even slotted to be in the rotation. He's the 6th guy. So if he explodes, you just have another great pitcher who could be a Shane McClanahan like. The projection systems are normally conservative, and they both have over 88.5. Not only over 88.5, over 89.5. 90 for Fangraphs, 93 for Pacoda. Worst division, same team. What am I missing? I'm not.
You're not missing. This is not a miss, Peter. This is really good stuff. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next one.
Go ahead.
Going back to the AL Central here, Detroit Tigers over 77.5. This team had one of the best off seasons of any team in the league. Javier Baez adding his bat is going to be huge for this team, but what he gives you on defense is absolutely elite at shortstop. This team needs a good defensive shortstop because they have all these young pitchers, and these young pitchers will need all the help they can get. On the pitching side of things, you add Eduardo Rodriguez from the Red Sox, who I have called I've gone mad over Eduardo Rodriguez because his FIP last year was like 3.32 and his ERA was 4.6. And I just went crazy over it, right? Pitching in Fenway with that defense is awful for a pitcher. Now he moves to Detroit where he's pitching in this huge ballpark, a much better defense around him. I think he puts up his best season ever. I think he puts up 4 to 5 WAR. I think Javier Baez puts up 4 to 5 WAR. You're adding 8 to 10 wins of WAR, and I don't know how, that translates to actual wins, right? But this team won 77 games last year, and that was even, despite a terrible April and a terrible May, they turned it on in basically the second, or the last 2/3 of the season. They were a much better team than that. This team is a team that can win 83 to 85 games. The other things I didn't mention, Tariq Skubal is going to take a step forward this year. He's throwing his slider more. His slider is fantastic. And I think he has an ERA around 3.6. Matt Manning is a guy that came up last year, was rushed, I think, and just didn't perform to his standard. He was a top prospect and is a guy that Aram at one time was super big on, right? He's less big on him now, but I still think Aram saw something in him. And I would say that there's still something in there for Matt Manning. I'm not a huge Casey Mize fan either, but he's a high floor guy. Let's face it. I mean, he's a 4 ERA to 4.2 ERA and has upside above that, but I don't think he's going to put up a 3.2 ERA, but he's just a high floor guy. And then this lineup bangs. I mean, everybody in this lineup is going to hit above 100 WRC plus. Adding Riley Green and Torkelson just take this lineup to the next level too. So those weren't free agent acquisitions. Those were prospect acquisitions that are MLB ready, going to be above average MLB players. I love what the Tigers did. I don't see how this team loses less than 80 games.
You got them at 77.5, you said? What would you say to 78.5? Because on most major books, I do see a 77.5 line, but let's say they don't have, we're waiting for a sponsor, so I'm not going to say which book has 77.5, but most books have 78.5.
I'll take it. I would take
it. Would you still take that?
I would take it up to 78 or even 79.5 because I really think this team's going to win more than 80 games.
My only worry, and this isn't even a worry because projection systems are projection systems. PECOTA is very low in the Tigers. Very low. 10 or 11 wins less than their projected total. 67 wins for PECOTA, 75 wins for Fangraphs. You're the numbers guy. You've been all over that. Why do you think the projection systems are out on the Tigers?
Because projection systems historically do a terrible job of projecting prospect value. Terrible, because they don't have the sample size, right? In the minor leagues, there's not too much data. We get like average and on-base percentage and walk rate and all that stuff, but we're not getting exit velocity data. We're not getting, pitch movement data. I think that the projection systems are undervaluing the impact of Torkelson and Green to this team, but I think also undervaluing the impact of a Javier Baez, of an Eduardo Rodriguez too. This team only got better than they were playing last year. And again, I don't see many holes to pick in this team. I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're a very solid, good team. And the other thing, this is just another, beyond the analytics thing. It's likely going to be Miguel Cabrera's final season, I think. And I think Miguel Cabrera wants to go to the playoffs one last time. I'm not saying this team's a playoff team, but I think they're going to fight their hearts out to make it happen.
You're kind of convincing me. You are kind of convincing me because I saw that line and I thought to myself, that line should be higher. But why isn't it? And it's not like the Brewers. But then again, with the Tigers, like bad bullpen. Starting pitching, you came in with the positives, but you can also come in with the negatives. Matt Manning has not proved anything. Tarek Skubal is fine. Casey Mize, fine. Eduardo Rodriguez, it looks great. We'll see. I think there's a lot of expectations. There's also a lot of money on the Tigers. They're a very popular team now to be betting on. My only concerns, but from what you were saying, it truly is garnering a lot of confidence in the Tigers moving forward this year. I guess the way to end the Tigers pick, I really want to see how you stack up the NL Central, because now two of your picks, like, how do you think it's going to go? Like, do you think White Sox, Twins, Tigers, Guardians, Royals? Are you lower on the Twins than other teams? I'm curious how you think the NL Central stacks up.
Yeah, I think the Twins are getting a little bit too much hype. I don't love their pitching staff over really any of the teams.
Baseball's a zero-sum game because if two teams are going to go up, that means you're down on two other teams.
Sort of, but not exactly, because baseball is less division. Like you don't play in your division that much that teams within a division can still succeed. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I see the AL Central as the White Sox are going to win 88 to 91 games. And then the Guardians, the Tigers are going to win above 80. Who else am I missing here?
Guardians,
the Twins.
Tigers,
the Twins are going to win around 78 to 80. And I don't think the Royals are there yet. They're over-unders at 74. I could really see them lower than that. I could see them around 69 or 70. I just don't think – I have no confidence in that pitching staff. That pitching staff has not shown me that they're ready for the big time yet. So, yeah, I'm out on the Royals.
I wouldn't be surprised if we have an 82-win Tigers, 81-win Twins, 80-win Guardians. I wouldn't be surprised. So I have only one more pick left. How many picks do you have?
I just have one left as well.
Perfect. I'll break into mine, and then we can end with yours. My favorite pick. This is a 2-unit play. The rest are 1 unit. This is a 2-unit play. Los Angeles Dodgers over 96.5 wins. What are we doing here, people? 96.5. I'd take it to 97.5. I'd take it to 98.5. I would take it to 99.5. I would take it to 100.5. Pagoda has them at 101 wins. Fangraphs has them at 96. My personal projection is 103 wins. This Dodgers team won 106 games last year, and they didn't even win the division. I could dive into their current roster for this year, but it's not going to resemble the team that it will look like in October. This team was amazing at the trade deadline. What did they do? They added Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. This team will do anything it needs to win. You're going to point to their current rotation. You say there's not a lot of depth there. I'm going to tell you that's not the rotation that the year will end with. First of all, Dustin May is going to return. And of course, they're going to add a big-time starter at the deadline. Like, let's see how the Reds look at the trade deadline and see which team Luis Castillo is on come July 31st. The Giants finished with 107 wins, and they were 10-9 against the Dodgers. I'm not counting the Giants out. Again, not counting the Giants out. But if I had to project, they're not going to win 107 games, and they're not going to beat the Dodgers 10 out of 19 games, especially after losing Buster Posey and replacing him with a rookie catcher. You look at projections. This Dodgers team, with conservative projections, is projected to have the same WRC plus as the 1927 Yankees. The 1927 Yankees with Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, that 1927 Yankees. The Padres will be without Fernando Tatis Jr. for 3 months. The Giants are worse than they were last year. The Dodgers could win 110 games this year. I haven't even talked about the bullpen. That's elite. I know they lost Kenley Jansen. I know they lost Joe Kelly, but Blake Trinan is phenomenal. Alex Vesia is great. Brusdar Graterol is great. They have so many other arms, and they have one of the best farm systems, like we talked about with the Rays. If they have holes, let's say they don't trade for someone. They have Ryan Pepiot coming up through the pipe. They have Miguel Vargas, who looks like Alex Rodriguez at third base. They have zero holes. They just extended Dave Roberts, who's proved that he's a great manager as well. They probably have the best general manager in the sport, Andrew Freeman. This is the best team in baseball. 96.5 wins is criminally low. I've seen it in 97.5 wins, 2-unit play there. If it goes up to 98.5, 2-unit play there. 99.5, 2-unit play. Once it gets into 100, switches to 1 unit. But anything below 100 is a 2-unit play. I love the Dodgers.
So your other plays are 1 unit. This is a 2-unit. So what happens when I come in and put a 2-unit on the Dodgers too? Because this is my number 1 team. Over 97.5. Are you crazy, Peter? They've won 100 plus. They've won 100 plus in 3 of the last 4 seasons. And I'm going to argue that they got better than they were last year. I mean, Corey Seager left. They don't have Max Scherzer for a half of the season, but I don't give a rat's ass, Peter. They get Trey Turner for a full season, and he's the best shortstop in the game, not named Fernando Tatis. They got Freddie Freeman, the best first baseman in the game, not named Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And you brought up the bullpen, right? Blake Trinan 1.99 ERA. Phil Bickford, do not sleep on my guy, 2.5 ERA last year. Then Alex Vesia, 2.25 ERA. Daniel Hudson, who pitched last year for the Nationals and the Padres, they got him 3.31 ERA. And Brusdar Graterol is probably the weakest link in this entire bullpen. Then on the rotation side of things, like you said, this team can easily, if they want to, trade for anybody at any time because they just have the deepest team, deepest farm system, deepest everything. They do it all well. But I think that 1 or 2 of Andrew Heaney, Tony Gonsolin, and Tyler Anderson actually produce pretty good numbers this season. Tyler Anderson was actually whiffing guys. Tony Gonsolin, I have adored him. He can never stay healthy, but I think they can piece together like a decent back end of this rotation. And I didn't even bring up David Price, who out of the bullpen is actually quite decent. This team is going to win. I agree, Peter, 102 to 103. I'm going to bring up an interesting hedge that you can do here too, is if you think that the Dodgers are going to win between 98 and 103 games, I think there is something that you could do is put 2 units on the Dodgers over 97.5. And then there's also a line for, does any team win more than 103 games? And you take the under, you could actually middle that if you wanted to. It's kind of an interesting play. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I'm just kind of putting that out there as something to think about. But Dodgers over 97.5, 2 units, I'm all into.
So I found it at 96.5, but I see on other books kind of similar to the Tigers 97.5 is really the major line. I already bet it. Like I already bet it at 96.5. Like I bet it. And I love it. I love it so much, Colby. I can't tell you how much I love it. It's my favorite play like of the year so far. It's better than any MVP, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young. It's better than any other win total. Like I kind of, after talking with you, I kind of want to go put another unit on it. Like you couldn't give me a line high enough. Like this is one of the best teams on paper that I've ever seen. And this is not a team that, kind of came out of nowhere and now we're moving forward. They won 106 games last year and they might be better with the worst division. If this goes under, I'll bleach my hair. I will bleach my hair at the end of the season if the Dodgers don't go over 96.5 wins. You heard it here first on Not Gambling Advice. I will bleach my hair if the Dodgers don't go over 96.5 wins. And you know what? The line is 97.5 on some places. Give me that too. 97.5. I bet it at 96.5. So if it's at 97 games, we're going to have a conversation. But you know what? Fuck that conversation. 97.5 wins over bleaching hair. I'm in.
Let's go. I have nothing more.
Go get some Not Gambling Advice merch in the episode link description. Give us a follow on Twitter, gambling_advice. I just completed my article, my 5 teams that I think will exceed their win total here. We'll also throw in some Colby MVP, well, not MVP picks, more like VIP picks into that article as well. So you can see that article on justbaseball.com. Thank you to all that listened. Next week, we are going, well, not next week, literally this week, we are doing our World Series favorites as well. We're basically going this week. We're going to be betting on everything that you can bet on as a load up to the season. Happy Monday, man.
Happy Monday, dude. We get opening day on Thursday, and this is not baseball related, but we also get the Masters on Thursday, which is one of the best sporting events of the year too. It's just like going to be one of the best sporting event weeks. I am almost tingling right now with how fired up we just got over the Dodgers, and I'm just going to leave the people with that.
And I hope everyone listening got the same tingles. And with that, thank you, everybody.